Welcome back. Another in our series of what's going on in the community. Unless you're living under a rock, you know that there's soon to be a city election in the city of Chipley, Florida, in which we find ourselves today. Our guest today is Jennifer Jones, a candidate for Ward 2 in the city of Chipley. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jennifer about why she's running for office. We admonish you to vote early and vote often, but we want you to vote responsibly. We want you to do your homework. We want you to know that candidate and for whom you're voting and why you're voting for that candidate. In this case, Jennifer is going to be able to tell you all the reasons why you maybe should or shouldn't consider supporting her in the upcoming election on August 3rd. Right around the corner, and this is one you're not going to want to miss. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Jennifer Jones, who is currently the candidate for the position of Ward 2 City Councilperson in Chipley, Florida. Jennifer, I feel like every year more and more people from Panama City Beach, Bay County are moving up here. I love it. Nicole from the newspaper. We've got people from the TDC. We've got attorneys moving to Washington County. No doubt that Washington County, and I know this is not what we're here to talk about, but Washington County is definitely appealing to those who are just fed up with traffic and with too many people and all of the things that we hoped for and wished for and that have come true. One day I woke up when we lived in Panama City Beach on our 30th year there, and my wife says, "You're going to have to move. You cannot live on the beach anymore. You're just getting too nasty. You have no patience." And for years my job was, "Hey, come on down to Panama City Beach," right? That was my job. And one day we woke up and really found out that they had. You have now done the same thing. You have relocated to little old Chipley, Florida. You're a Washington County girl originally. I know Tom Najar used to always say Miss Weewaw, and you would have to correct him and know it was Miss Wausau. So let's start at the beginning. For those of our audience that don't know you, I had the pleasure of working with you at the Bay Arts Alliance and the Panama City Marina Civic Center for many years. Let's talk a little bit about who is Jennifer Jones.
Well, so I grew up here until I was 14, and then I did go to Weewaw. My dad was the preacher at Shiloh, so my maiden name is Bloodworth, and I was told if I would just say that, people would say, "Oh, okay, I know who you are." So we were here for 14 years, and I didn't have a driver's license when we moved away, so it wasn't easy to come right back. And so after college, Gulf Coast and Florida State, I had to get a job that paid me. So I moved to Panama City, and I worked in a few businesses, getting skills that I didn't realize I was going to need later. So I worked in accounting and marketing and insurance, and I ended up becoming the executive director of Bay Arts Alliance, which was really great because I had a music degree, and there weren't a lot of places to use it. And that's a one-of-a-kind job, and I was able to stay there for almost 20 years. And then Hurricane Michael hit, and the Civic Center was rendered useless. So I stayed.
That's the technical term?
Well, it's still there, and its future is uncertain, but I'm not, so I can't speculate.
Yeah,
but
so
it wasn't working while I was there.
Yeah, not to derail your story, but so from the time Michael hit, the Panama City Marina Civic Center has not been in use?
At all.
Oh, wow. I was totally unaware of that.
Yeah, it's still not in use, and there's still a question as to whether it's going to be restored or anything like it where it is currently, which is at the end of Harrison Avenue, or if the property is going to be used for something else and another facility that serves the same purpose somewhere else.
Wow. We spent a lot of hours in that building. When I was in radio, we brought a lot of country concerts in. I hosted or emceed the Taste of Home cooking show for several years there. It was just an icon, and I can't imagine the revenue loss not having that venue there. I mean, because that must have been millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, we had, there was well over $1 million going through the box office every year, and probably about 100,000 people going through the doors. But everything that happened didn't go through the box office, so it was more economic impact than just what we could track in our ticket sales.
Sure.
Because we would have dance competitions that would come and spend weeks there, and dance recitals and graduations and Death by Chocolate, and like you say, Taste of Home, things that we wouldn't sell tickets to,
Right.
but we're making money move around the community.
And Ticketmaster did a lot of stuff too. That kind of, I know we brought the Beach Boys to the marina back Memorial Day of 1998 or 9, something like that, maybe 2000, whatever it was, when I was still at Clear Channel, and that was all Ticketmaster.
Yeah, we had a I think we had a 5-year contract with them, and at the 4th year, I said, how do we get out of this? When we took on the ticketing ourselves, we netted probably $45,000 the first year just by taking operations back.
You paid a full-time person just for that then. I mean, you could have.
We did.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's the net after paying some one full and 2 part-time people.
Wow.
So, but just by taking in the operations into our own, business, instead of letting Ticketmaster do it for us, it was a net gain.
And I apologize for interrupting
That's okay.
you. So you're at the Marina Civic Center. Hurricane Michael came. You're out of a job, basically. So where do you go from there?
So I stayed about a year because Bay Arts isn't the Marina Civic Center.
Right.
It ran the Marina Civic Center. We had picked up the Panama City Center for the Arts in 2015 as we had become the management group for that as well. And that building fared pretty well. So we found a port after the storm, but the organization couldn't support the same number of staff. So we ended up sending staff to work for other people, or they moved away and things happened through attrition. And then the guy that's there running Bay Arts Alliance now, the executive director, Jason Kretzer, has a real strong background in visual arts, and mine was really strong in 20 years in performances. So it was kind of time to go. It was for a new, somebody with new vision.
Now, was Jason with DIB before he came to you?
No, he was self-employed. He's an artist and a graphic artist, and he worked with the News Herald.
Yeah.
He's a cartoonist.
Yeah,
That's not the right term, cartoonist,
Yeah.
but that's so everybody knows he's
Illustrator.
Yes. So he does work for Marvel Comics and that sort of stuff. So, and he's really good at what he does. He's a good bit younger than me. So after about a year, we kind of created an exit plan and actually got recruited to my new job where I could live anywhere I wanted. And the board that hired me said, we'll pay to your moving expenses if we can send you to Tallahassee. And I said, well, let me see if I get this house. If I don't, then you can move me to Tallahassee. And they couldn't understand why I said that until I saw them in Tallahassee during session. I said, here's where I live. And they said, oh, okay, never mind. You're good.
If anybody spends 10 minutes in Tallahassee, they don't want to live in Tallahassee.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so what is that current job that you've got?
So now I am the president and CEO of Florida Cultural Alliance. So we're an advocacy group that speaks on behalf of the nonprofits arts groups for the whole state of Florida. And primarily our first focus is to get funding for the arts grants that come through the Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs. It's an existing program, but it is what they call non-recurring funds. So it starts at zero every year. So we have to ask the legislature to please fund these programs. And last year was my first year, and before COVID, last year was my first year, and the lady that came before me founded the organization and was there for 36 years. And probably 15 years ago, I said, I want to be her one day. And it ended up happening. I couldn't believe it.
Well, what's interesting, too, is that you're getting paid to do what you tried to do for many, many years in Panama City. I mean, because that was your whole vision, was to bring more arts to the community, whichever community that happened to be, the global community, if you will.
Right. So now I just get to speak on behalf of all the communities and counties in Florida.
That's fantastic.
And so, session is 40 days for the most part. And the rest of the time, I don't really have to, be a specific place. So I get to be here. And then I just run. We're so close to the interstate, I just hop on and go to Jacksonville or Tallahassee or Orlando. And
when it is in session, you get to work with people that you already know, like George Gaynor and people like that anyway.
Jay Trumbull,
Yeah.
Brad Drake, and his assistant, Emily, who I went to high school with her dad.
Yeah, I know Emily.
Keep running into people. It's like, oh, I know your parents.
Small world.
It is.
Truly a small world. So that brings us to Chipley. You have been here now for a while, and you decided, or were drawn, kicking and screaming maybe, into the political arena. Now, the city of Chipley, you don't get much smaller politics than this small municipal government. If you want to be effective, I think that's exactly where you need to be. I sometimes think you can be more effective there than you can on a state level, seriously.
Right. Well, I told you earlier, it's like I never thought I would do this. I've been asked by other people to run for offices in years past, and I'm thinking, no way would I ever do that. But this is different. This feels, it feels like a community. I know it is a city, it is a municipality, but it feels like a community where you can make a difference. And also that and I think all the difference that needs to be made should be community driven. It's just like, if there's a reason people live here. You don't want to make it somewhere else. You just want to make it the best here that it can be.
There are many towns and villages much bigger than Chipley, and Chipley's a city. 2,500 people, arguably 2,600. And it is what it is. It's a great town, and we love living here. The first 10 years we were in Washington County, we lived in Wausau. We had a house down there. We decided everything we do was in Chipley. So now I live a couple blocks from the school. We do, all our clients are here in Chipley. It's wonderful. All right, no surprise why you wanted to be in Washington County, why you wanted to be in Chipley, even beyond that. So now we're talking about city council. What are the problems that Chipley faces that you can help with besides the arts?
Well, I think the problems are basically just being able to have the manpower and being able to basically pick your head up from your work to be able to see the opportunities are there and take advantage of them, because it is work to seize a grant opportunity.
Huge work.
To make the application, to meet the deadline, then to report on it. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and I know that it can be a very 1 or 2 full-time jobs.
And that is
just
one of
by
your
itself.
strengths, isn't it?
It's an area that I've been moderately successful
That's
in.
huge.
So I think I could be helpful to see opportunities. I know that there are requirements that the people that actually are the representatives of the city, as in administration, are the ones that have to sign off on, and be accountable for that. But I think I could be helpful in finding creative ways to access opportunities that, that would help to, offset the costs that you can't avoid, and then maybe pick up a few other costs that are covered that make things a little better, that are a little more than just the necessities. So I think I could help with being creative about finding ways to do the things that people already want to do here. And I don't know if it's allowed, but I'd be willing to lend a hand as a person that was engaged a little bit deeper,
absolutely.
than just paying my water bill.
All of your experience in the past comes to bear. Everything that you've done has led you, I can't help but think, in this direction. The problem with grants, as we all well know, those who deal with grants, is that a grant is great and you can build something, but if you can't afford to maintain it, if you can't afford to cut the grass at that new civic center that the grant bought you, then if you can't afford to pay the power bill, and that happens so very often.
But you have to have a plan that shows how's it, you don't want to chase all the money, you want to chase the money that actually benefits you,
No
that
doubt.
you don't have to keep working for, you want it to work for you.
Right.
And generally, it's taxpayer money, so just bring it back. In my opinion,
Sure.
if we're paying the taxes and it's available, bring it back into the community, because odds are we've been generating those funds, and it's useful. That's what I think what it's for the common good, when we do have that, resource. And I just think I don't want to change Chipley.
I don't think you can if you wanted to.
Yeah,
Other people have tried, certainly.
Yeah, well, and I'm not interested in that, but I think there's some opportunities we could take advantage of. And I think the people here can do a lot of the work. I was telling a neighbor the other day, I bet you could point to something, anything you saw, like on the internet, and said, oh, I really like this, that's really neat. And somebody within 5 blocks of you could say, oh, I could build that. That we have the talent and the skills in our neighborhoods to make things happen. We just need to encourage each other and get excited about it. I think it'd be a pretty easy lift to make some differences that would show up really nicely and never, and if people don't know Chipley, they might wonder why you live here, because it is.
Until you spend some time here.
If you're here, but I think if we had some visibility that made people stop in their tracks or at our tracks, instead of driving through.
Literally,
and they
yeah.
would. I think they would.
Well, you've got the fortune of having a very aggressive, dynamic mayor in place. Tracy Andrews, I can't say enough. It's amazing that the stars aligned to be able to get such a person in place. She was the general manager of Gulf Power Company, works with a lot of groups around town. Everybody knows her. She's extremely non-invasive. She can make things happen just by, trying to work with people, and doesn't have an agenda, which is a very large thing too.
Well, we went to Kate Smith and Rolac together.
Ah.
And I actually met her when we were adults in Panama City with Ted Spangenberg. We were at a chamber event, and I said, "Aren't you from Chipley?" It turns out, yes, that we were actually in the same grade level, in the same class when we were here.
So, but you've got great city staff. You've got great the utilities, from the utilities people to the parks and recreation people. Everybody in Chipley, they're workers. They don't have a problem keeping these jobs filled because they treat people right. A lot of corporate entities have problems finding help these days because nobody wants to work. That's not the case. Most of these city and county positions are filled with quality people because there is a quality of life that goes along with that paycheck, and that makes a difference.
Well, when we first moved here, I have a couple of questions, like I didn't know which day to put the trash out and things like that. And so I would call, and they would call you back. And I was like, oh my goodness, they called back. So it's really great to be here. And if you needed to go down there, everybody knows who you are. It's pretty cool town.
It's a great place to live.
I'm happy to live here, and I'm excited to do something I said I'd never do, which was run for a city council seat. But I think it would be exciting, and I want the work that I do to make a difference. So I love my job that I have. We actually were able to, and it wasn't all me by any means, but we were able to double the arts grants funding this year, even with COVID, just in our rearview mirror, not even in our rearview mirror yet, dogging us still. So it makes me want to work harder when I can see that it's making a difference.
Well, you have to see some results or you get discouraged after a while, no doubt. And that's what separates the workers from those who, so often somebody wants a position, but they don't really want to work that position. And that's a big thing. I want to be in that position. I want to have that political office. I want to be in that supervisory role. But they don't realize the work that goes along with that. And so you're biting off a lot, but I think that you've got a great organization with whom to work in that position, from Dan Miner on down, and everybody works. You don't have somebody sitting around in a white shirt pointing. It's all hands on deck. That's the value of a small town, because everybody has to work. It won't support big infrastructure like that. We're fortunate to have several hospitals. We're in the vicinity. We're fortunate to have DOT here. The school district alone in Washington County has a huge number of people. We just recently had to do all the headshots for all the new swipe ID badges. My photography class actually did that, and we started going around to the 8 schools in Washington County and shooting all these students, the staff, teachers, paras, even down to the lunchroom ladies, and we got a whole bunch of people get that biweekly check from that school district, which is huge, and it's really good.
It is. I think that we can keep all the charm and maybe offset some of the costs of living here. Is like when taxes go up, because you have to pay for things. So I think if we have more neighbors that want to live in this town, that we can share the burden, and we can maybe create opportunities for our young people where, I know people have to leave for industry, and they get to pursue the things that they want to pursue that interest them. But it's really nice when people want to bring it back once they've, gotten a little bit of time under their belt and some experience, and they want to come back because they love home and they would just want to be
We
part
see
of
that
it.
with a lot of these high school graduates. They can't wait to get away, and I get it. That's the way of the world. But they'll come back with a couple of kids in 20 years and go, we want a safe, good place to raise our children. And that's what it comes down to. I don't think you would want children in a big city these days. It would definitely be a dynamic that you'd have to you'd have to deal with, and that's not such a great thing. So, upon taking office, what do you see your role? I mean, we know what, by definition, what the role of the council person is on any given ward, but what are the kind of things that you envision that you'll be able to hit the ground running with?
Well, so of course, there's a lot that's going to happen. Like, there's a learning curve. Obviously, you don't know anything until you do it.
Right.
So, yes, I will have to get educated to a large degree, and actually have been researching like good governance education opportunities. I know the Florida Chamber of Commerce does it, and does it through the county chambers. So I've been investigating that. But I think that once I kind of get my feet under me, that while I'm learning the job of an elected person, that I also want to learn what my neighbors are interested in. I did find out that everybody in the city limits votes for every ward, which I did not know that initially. I thought, I just need to talk to the Ward 2 people. But no, you have to talk to all the people in the city limits.
There are very few single-member districts in this area. Now, Jackson County has single-member districts for some of their offices.
Well, isn't Bay County like that?
No.
No?
I don't think so. Not to the best of my knowledge. I may be wrong.
But you know what? I lived in Lynn Haven, so it didn't even.
Oh, for Lynn Haven City, yes.
Yeah, that would be why I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, it's cheaper to run, and it's easier because there are fewer doors to knock on. So that's another question. With COVID still looming over, which I think, I'm not even going to share my own opinions about that. So are you going to go door to door? Are you going to out there, stumping, as they say in the political world?
Well, so I am. That is my plan. But I did marketing with my job, and I know that people don't decide what they're going to do until 2 weeks out. So my signs, my door-to-door business, all of that, I'm timing it 2 weeks or within
Gotcha.
2.5 weeks of the actual date of the election. I think so that I get to send the message that I'm running, and that also there's an election, because I think if people don't vote, it doesn't matter how many signs you had in the yard. So I'm going to, 2 weeks is close enough to seem urgent, but not so far out that you forget about it either. So, yeah, I have a little kind of a marketing campaign schedule in my brain that seemed to work. Of course, in the entertainment business, they wouldn't decide for 2 weeks, and then they wouldn't buy the tickets till 2 days before.
Because it's a weather thing.
And you were biting your nails.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and wise words. Having such a poor turnout of voters and is attributable in large part to the fact that there's been no competition. So people don't have to show up if there's only one person applying for that job.
There's no contest. There's no box to circle in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that gets shot through the foot if there's 7 positions open and only one of them has an opponent. You still have to hold the whole election. I think in the past couple of years we've only had several hundred people show up to vote, which is really terrible. So maybe your energy, your new look, your new approach will help to and you kind of alluded to that, bolster that overall voter turnout. And that's been our message, is that vote early and vote often, but vote intelligently. Decide who not because that person's got green hair and that person's got brown hair and you prefer green hair, but rather does that person have something to say that appeals to me? What do you think is the overall, because you mentioned, you've been asked before to run for certain offices and you've always turned it down. Politics in general has a bad name, obviously, going back to the very beginning of time. But I think in a small town like this, you can be real, you can be honest, you can say what's on your mind. I always said that if I was elected for office, I'd be a one-termer no matter what it was, because I am very direct spoken and I don't try to sugarcoat anything because I don't have that kind of time to waste. But when you're a politician, you sort of have to, that little lady that catches you at the church, you have to be willing to spend that time and, do whatever it takes to please that person. So I just knowing you the way that I do, I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. You're pretty personable and, you want to be well thought of.
Yeah,
but that's a
I'm
challenge.
pretty opinionated too.
But here's the thing: you can
get stuff done.
You can have an opinion, but you don't always have to share it either.
Right.
Because if you're elected to, and in this case, you'll be representing me as a city dweller. you don't have to have the same opinions. I just want to know that you're voting your mind and you're voting because of what you think. Because if I vote for you, you're my proxy vote. I don't want you, because so often we see in the higher up, the larger political arenas where, people are voting according to what their supporters want, and if they're supporting something in the energy world, and the energy company is their client, then obviously it's going to skew their vote. Again, very small market here from a marketing point of view, and it's going to have to be fun. I think that it will be fun.
I think it will be. Well, so I think that, like everybody's got opinions, and you do represent the people that elected you. So and like you asked me, what was I going to do when I hit the ground running? Was I really do want to understand my phone number will be published. So I would expect to hear from people that wanted my voice to reflect their, interests when I'm sitting in a meeting or in a workshop. So I'm thinking that I'll probably learn more about the constituency after, if I'm elected, after the election than I would before.
Sure.
Because the nature of a campaign is
And
you do a lot of talking and you don't, you want to do a lot of listening, but you have to say what's on your mind, not just, vote for me and I'll do whatever you tell me.
Sure.
These are the things I care about, and then I'll try to reconcile them with the means of the city and the ability to accomplish what you're interested in, and is it good for the entire city? But I think, that's one of the things that I hope to be able to be listening and learning fast if I get in there. So.
Well, again, you've got a good sitting board there already. Yours is the only race, I think, on the ballot.
It is.
So you'll know who will be sitting there when all that dust settles. You'll know who that you can go to for help. And in your case, if you already know Tracy, the mayor is sort of in an isolated or insulated position there because they can't make a motion and they don't vote unless there's a tie. And so they can be totally honest and forthcoming. And so having that relationship with especially since it's Tracy, because she's just she's good for Chipley. She embodies Chipley.
Well, the other thing that I've watched her in the meetings is she knows how to manage a meeting. She's very good at getting everybody into the conversation and getting through the agenda at the same time.
Absolutely.
Nobody feels like they weren't listened to. She acknowledges everybody. She's very gracious and thanks everybody and recognizes them all the way through the agenda. And still you manage to get through the agenda in a business-like fashion. She's extremely professional.
Well, best of luck moving forward. I know that you're going to have fun in the campaign. Win or lose, you'll be gracious. I know if you're elected to that position that you're going to be someone of whom we'll be proud. And let us know if we can help you in any way. As I do with all the candidates, Jennifer, I'll let you look right into that camera and virtually address all of those 2,500 plus citizens of Chipley, Florida, and tell them why they should vote for you.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. My name is Jennifer Bloodworth Jones, and the first thing I would encourage you to do was to make the time to go and vote on Tuesday, August 3rd. That's the most important thing. And when you get there, I'd like you to consider me because I believe there's a reason people live here in Chipley, and we should be making the most of it. And I will appreciate your vote on August 3rd.
Well said. Best of luck, and thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
It was good to see you.
It was fun. Thank you.
And if we have the time, maybe we can get you back again one more time before the election and maybe catch us up on how it's going, especially if you've already kicked off your marketing plan.
Okay.
Very good.
Great.
Our guest today has been Jennifer Jones, currently candidate for Ward 2 City Councilperson for the city of Chipley, Florida. If you have not been to Chipley, check it out. That's all I can say. If you like small town life, if you want a quiet quality of life, but yet very accessible to everything around us, Dothan, Pensacola, Tallahassee, and the world's most beautiful beaches to our south, you need to check out Chipley, Florida. We'll be right back.